Well, this is what it's like building a project car. You always have kinks you have to work out, and apparently I have something going on with my fuel system. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on with it. Hopefully it's just the level is in the wrong spot, but I'll figure it out when I get back to the shop. Hi everyone, welcome back to Dave's World. I really appreciate all the support everyone's giving me on these Jetta videos that I've been putting up. You know, when I started my first Jetta video, I wasn't really sure what I was doing or how I wanted to do the video, but the feedback I got since video 1 all the way up to this point has really helped me develop videos that I thought were informative and helpful. Along the way, I didn't keep out any of my issues or headaches that I went through when I was doing the K04 swap on the car. I made a mistake choosing my header in the beginning. Let me show you the header real quick. I actually have it out of the car. This is the header, and unfortunately the way it's designed, you have a really tough time getting to the bolts, and specifically this one back here. So before I installed this header in the car, I had made a video showing what you need to do a K04 swap. But every video since then I explained to get rid of this header. So what I want to do in this video today is I want to show you the headache I went through using this header and what happened with the bolts. Apparently it's normal for the turbo bolts to come loose on a 99 to 05 Jetta. And whether you're using this header or a factory exhaust manifold, you're going to run into the same issue. So I'm putting this into the video series to show you the kind of headache you might have to deal with, because these headers, whenever you're looking up K04 swaps, these headers come up all the time, and I want people to see the kind of nightmare you're going to go through. And the video after this one is going to be me swapping in a different style exhaust manifold, and I'm going to show you why in that video, but specifically I want to show you what happened with this header. The footage I'm going to show you right now I took a couple months ago before I gave the car back to my friend. I did a lot of road testing, and probably 4 or 5 times the bolts came loose. I tried everything I could with this header. Unfortunately, the way it's designed, it's very difficult to get these bolts to stay put. So I decided ultimately to remove it, but I at least want to show you what's going on if you decide to keep this header. So here's that footage, and then after the footage is over, I'll start talking about the car a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to sneak you guys behind the engine and show you where the gasket blew out on the turbo. I'm going to try not to tap the engine so it doesn't resonate through the camera. My apologies if it does ahead of time. But if you look right over here, I'm doing it by feel. This is the gasket. It actually blew out of this area while driving. I did take the one bolt out. There's another bolt and a bolt in the back still holding the turbo on. I tightened them up the other day. What I'm going to try and do is loosen these up, put one bolt in, and then rotate the gasket in and try and get the other gasket out without having to drop the turbo. I still happen to have the old turbo here from the other day. I want to show you a visual example before I actually try this on the car. But we happen to have one broken stud. Let's pretend this is actually a bolt, one single bolt holding the turbo on. What I'm going to do is leave 1 or 2 of the other bolts in with the old gasket. I'm going to remove this specific bolt. What I want to do is drop the gasket in between, put the bolt back in, and then use this bolt to hold the turbo up and remove these bolts. And I want to slide this gasket in and then put the other bolts back in and tighten them all up. And I want to try and do this without letting the turbo completely remove itself from the exhaust manifold. If that happens, it might be a kind of a pain in the butt to get it back up in place, and then I have to remove a whole bunch of things around it and support it from underneath to try and get it back at where it needs to be. So this is what I'm going to try and do with this stainless steel gasket now. Okay, so I have you guys set up in a pretty decent spot to see. If you look here, the gasket blew out. I'm sticking this gasket in place. There's nothing in there. And I'm going to throw the one bolt in. And then now this gasket will be able to be spun in. And it's held in place now by this one bolt. good. Now I just have to work on getting the back bolt out. That bolt's stuck back here. It's loose. I just can't get my fingers in there. I'm gonna see if I can get that bolt out. I just don't know. I don't know how it went in, but it just won't come out. This kind of stuff happens sometimes. Well, there's actually no gasket in the back. What I think I might do is just cut here to here so I could rotate this around the threads on the back bolt. Okay guys, here's what I'm doing. I had to kind of change gears a little bit. So the bolt in the back of the turbo is stuck in a way where it's loose, but it won't actually clear the header, and I can't get it out because of the angle it's on. So I'm gonna do the same trick, but this time around, I'm taking the thread locker. I'm actually dipping a paintbrush in it, and I'm gonna take this thread locker and paint it onto the threads of the bolt. I can actually get to the bottom of it. It's a little different than what you would normally do, but at least there's thread locker on it. Now what I did was I modified this gasket, so I'm still gonna spin it, but it's going to clear now and go right where the bolt's gonna tighten up. And now I should be able to slide this gasket right in place. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna put thread locker on this bolt. All right, I couldn't put any torque on that little tool I had, but I'm just using a regular wrench this time. Okay, so you saw in the footage that basically the bolts came loose. Now, by the time I filmed this, the bolts had come loose probably for the 4th time on me. I used crushed gaskets, I used a stainless gasket, and no matter what, every time the bolts came loose, the gasket went bad. So every time it happened, I had to put a new gasket in. So I used different types of washers. So here's 2 examples of washers. This is a typical lock washer. And this is another style lock washer that gives you a little bit of a bite. Both of those washers will not work. I used regular Loctite, I used high temperature Loctite, those won't work. I also heard that this style lock washer, which I'm gonna try and put in the video right here, is probably the best lock washer you could use for this situation. The problem is getting those washers onto the bolts and getting to where the bolts are, at least closest to the engine, is very difficult. If you saw some of the previous videos, you saw I had to make a special tool to get in there. I decided later on that actually if you use Allen style, this is an Allen style bolt, you could potentially sneak down past and get an Allen wrench to tighten it up. So that's an alternative to the bolts that I used originally. At least in a grade 10.5 if you're using a metric one, or grade 8 if you're using standard with the locking washers that I showed you. That is the best way to get away with using this header and making it be able to not have the bolts loosen up. But again, I can't guarantee that because I've had such a nightmare dealing with these things. So again, this video is just to be informative. I really appreciate everybody who's checking this series out along the way. And the feedback has been great. I'm glad you guys are happy that I leave the struggle in and I kind of show you other cars along the way too. I like the channel to be a little different and have variety, and doing this work and trying to be entertaining is difficult. So hopefully I'm doing the best I can and you enjoy it. So, and I always like to give you guys garage updates at the end of the videos. I'm just going to show you real quick. If you've been watching the Corvette, I actually got rid of the wide body that I was using, and I'm ordering a different one. And then the Mustang is coming for this engine. That engine is a 4.6 liter that I've been redoing. That's going to be going into a 65 Mustang Resto mod. So The problem with the engine, luckily, was only one cylinder head was bad, so I've been looking for an upgraded cylinder head, but unfortunately, the prices went from being like $200 to like $800. So I'm just trying to find a more affordable way to get the engine done before I get the car worked on. And then I have some stuff coming out on the Cobra. So stay tuned for some of the stuff that I have coming up. I have plenty of builds on the property. I'm just waiting to get to each thing so I could set up a video series for everybody. So thanks again, everyone, and have a very nice day.